But apparently, doing more research, I found out that the Mothman apparently has been in a lot of places before a lot of accidents happen. I mean, often described as a humanoid figure around 7 feet tall with a massive wingspan and hypnotic glowing red eyes, the creature legend known as the Mothman seems to be connected to tragic events. Across the world, witnesses claim to have seen a creature of this description, with sightings becoming more frequent in the days leading up to horrific events. 2 bridge collapses, the Chernobyl disaster, 9/11, were all allegedly preceded by Mothman sightings. Now, it could be a cryptid, like Bigfoot. You never know what's real out there. Or something, otherworldly, like Indrid Cold. Now, he's supposed to be tied in with the Mothman somehow. Now, reports of strange lights in the sky, an unnerving humming sound, and electrical interference have all been tied to the Mothman sightings. Many have asked about this creature's possible motives. Could it have been, causing the disasters, or should be, trying to give people warnings of what's to come? Like any good harbinger of doom, the Mothman possesses a blood-curdling shriek that's been known to make those who hear it experience nausea and vertigo. Now, I'm going to give you some stories that I found that I thought were, kind of cool. Some of them are kind of lame. Like one of them talks about Mothman took a man's dog. Somehow that was a top story. But we'll get right into this one here. This one is, 2 young couples were chased down Route 62 by the Mothman. On November 15th, 1966, 2 couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mallet, were driving past a TNT plant when they saw a humanoid figure with glowing red eyes. Linda described what they saw on the side of the road as a bird-like humanoid creature with a large wingspan and fiery red eyes. She said it was about 7 feet tall and its wings folded against its back. You could see muscles in its legs, she recalled. This would scare me to death. If you legit seen something, but back in the 60s, I think some people were popping some LSD back then. But more of the story here. The creature followed them as they drove back towards Point Pleasant on Route 62. Then it veered off into the fields and disappeared. The group went straight to the Mason County Police Department to share their terrifying account, which soon made its way into local papers. "I wish we had never seen it. I wish someone else had seen it," Linda Scarborough said later. Another story here, the Mothman haunted Point Pleasant leading up to the Silver Bridge collapse. The first of a series of strange sightings actually took place about 85 miles away from Point Pleasant in Clendenin, West Virginia. 5 grave diggers heard a rustling in the trees overhead and looked up to find what they claimed was a flying man directly above them. Over the next few days, more reports started trickling in. 2 volunteer firemen described a large bird with red eyes. At least 100 reports from people of all ages circulated throughout Point Pleasant between November of 1966 and December of 1967, describing a monster that was able to ascend straight up into the air like a helicopter. That would be an interesting sight to see. But all of these witnesses described the same birdman with glowing, hypnotic red eyes and the wings of a bat. Now, Mary Hay, a reporter at the time of the Mothman sightings, received over 500 phone calls, not only about the mysterious creature, but also strange lights in the sky, electrical interference, mysterious humming sounds, and a UFO sighting. Then on December 15th, 1967, a year after the Mothman sightings, tragedy struck. During rush hour traffic, the Silver Bridge collapsed, 46 people died, and the Mothman disappeared. Now this one here is pretty interesting, but the Mothman tried to warn people of the Fukushima disaster. Now, Marcus Pulls, an American visiting Japan, was out with a friend near the Fukushima plant when suddenly they heard a loud whooshing sound and a terrible screech. As they looked back towards the plant, they saw a figure. Now, Marcus described this as, quotation marks right here, "A large and black, from the distance I was at it looked to be sitting on top of one of the square-shaped buildings. It sat there for about 5 seconds, then it unfurled its large set of wings, and I could only see, was the wings itself." Now, the creature took flight, circling the plant a few times before coming closer to them. And Marcus said this right here. "That's when I noticed 2 large red eyes. They seemed to glow from within and with a blood red hue. They were unblinking in the 3 to 4 seconds we saw them. We knew they were looking straight at us. We knew this creature knew we could see it, and it made no attempt to disguise itself." Now, Marcus described this as an immense feeling of dread that washed over him, and the creature vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Marcus describes this as an immense feeling of dread that had washed over him, and the creature vanished as quickly as it had appeared. It wasn't until Marcus was back home in America, hearing the news on CNN about the devastation of the Japanese earthquake and the explosions at the very same nuclear power plant that he had witnessed this creature at. Then he realized he may have seen the infamous harbinger of disaster known as the Mothman. Now the next one here, I really doubt this, the logic behind this is just bizarre. The Mothman was hanging around the Twin Towers the week of 9/11. Now during the days leading up to the terrorist attack of September 11th, several people witnessed sightings of a black-winged creature near the Twin Towers during the attack. Now, as the second plane hit, eyewitnesses reported a creature flying parallel to the plane. Then in the days that followed, those reporting the creature were allegedly approached by the men in black and warned to stop talking about what they saw. Now, I don't really want to go too much into this particular incident, but they have pictures and stuff like that, but you never know really. Now, the Mothman is connected to the Chernobyl disaster. This is another interesting story right here. But the Mothman is believed to have been around for the worst nuclear accident in history. Throughout 1985, many scientists and other workers at the nuclear power plant in Chernobyl, Ukraine, claimed to have seen a huge black bird-like creature with the body of a man flying around the plant. Now, those who saw the red-eyed beast also reported a series of strange, harassing phone calls and a string of nightmares leading up to the disaster explosion in April 1986. Now, on April 26th of 1986, the day of the accident, several people saw the huge black bird actually flying around the smoke after the explosion. Even those in the nearby town of Pripyat claimed to have seen the creature that became known as the Black Bird of Chernobyl. In the days leading up to the disaster, Pripyat was affected and later evacuated because of the harmful radiation. Now, just so we're clear, I probably pronounced the name of that town completely wrong. Now, here's another interesting story. The Mothman appeared at the site of the I-35 bridge collapse. Now, the Mothman was spotted at yet another bridge collapse in 2007. Eerily enough, the I-35 bridge in Minneapolis, Minnesota was opened for traffic in 1964, the same year the Seward Bridge collapsed. Now that is trippy right there though. Then on August 1st, 2007, after a month of Mothman sightings, the I-35 bridge collapsed during rush hour traffic, taking the lives of 13 people with it and injuring 145. Now, reports of the Mothman began trickling in on June 27th of 2007, preceding the collapse by a mere month. Many claim to see the humanoid creature flapping its massive wings into the surrounding area and at the bridge itself. Now, an Illinois woman witnessed the creepy cryptoid while driving just outside of Stewartville, Minnesota, on the same day, June 27th. She called paranormal radio show host George Norrie on Coast to Coast AM and described the creature as having a huge wing about the width of a Ford. Now, there was a few others that really weren't entertaining as much. You had a West Virginia man claim his dog was taken by Mothman. It's really short. It's just, he let his dog out and it wasn't seen again. He just assumed it got picked up by Mothman. You had an eyewitness in Wisconsin say the Mothman attacked his car. That was two Cherokee Indians were just driving around and they claimed that the Mothman attacked their vehicle, but and also described how it gave them like vertigo and things like that. Then you had supposedly there Mothman sightings are somehow tied in with the swine flu outbreak in Mexico. That story was really short. It's just they just assumed that somebody claimed to have seen the Mothman for about 15 minutes and somehow he contracted it and it just went on from there. You had another one that was the Mothman was sighted in the deadly Xi'an T Dam disaster. It was a region in southeastern China. They say they was plagued by a sightings of a figure that resembled the Mothman around January 1926. But something happened to the dam, and once it busted open, about 40 billion gallons of water flooded out, and once the dam collapsed, it resulted in the deaths of over 15,000 people. So I mean, there is so many more stories about the Mothman, but I tried to find the ones that were kind of interesting. Some of them like that, just like attacking somebody's car, picking up their dog and stuff like that. It's that really ain't too crazy because all that can be debatable. I mean, like if you let your dog out at night, if you're in the woods, it's hard to tell what's going to happen. And when you're out just you and your buddy driving, you never know what's going to be attacking your vehicle. It could be like a giant, bird or something like that. You don't really know. But like the dams collapse, not the dams, but the two bridges collapsing almost on like the same day, but at like different times. That's trippy. And like the Chernobyl disaster and just things like that, man. It really makes you think of, what's real and what isn't. But if you enjoyed the video, drop it a like. It means a lot. I'll see you in the next video.